All right. Good morning, Doug. First, a special announcement for our viewers. We have just published a special report on uranium and why there's an opportunity, once in a decade opportunity right now in it with a couple specific picks. You can get that report for free by going to crisisinvesting.com, join the email list, and you'll get it for free. Also, you get other updates from things we publish there as well. So first of all, that. Now, next, Doug, there's appears to be an Anarcho-Capitalist Awakening now, not just with Millet, but now hitting the broader culture through the UFC. What's going on, do you think?
It was absolutely fantastic. A UFC fighter with a cauliflower ear, which gives him real street cred, real legitimacy. What's his name? The Brazilian guy.
Uh, Renato, I think, is his first name. I'm not sure what his.
Yes, forgot his last name. But this guy is like a rogue intellectual. He's a man of the people, where after he wins a bout, takes the time in his speech to tell the audience he loves America, he loves guns, he loves capitalism, and he loves Ludwig von Mises. All you motherfuckers ought to read Ludwig von Mises. Most of them won't have heard of it, but now they have. And it was tremendous.
It was amazing. And I'll tell you, last night I got a message from my brother-in-law who said, "Are you aware of Ludwig von Mises? I'm just reading some of his works. I like him so far."
Yeah, I'm a fan of von Mises. My only complaint about him is he's a little bit dense and
Yeah.
Germanic to read, but what he says is fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I said, well, you might want to also look at some Rothbard while you're in the area. It's a little easier to read.
Yeah, yeah, no question about it. So this is a real breakthrough. This Brazilian UFC fighter. So
It really is. And I mean, it's expanding the Overton window big time, that these ideas they're being injected into the mainstream. I mean, Millet and his, outlandish style, I think gets a lot of attention. His visit with Elon Musk last week, raises his profile among other people. They ask more questions, and then you've got this man of the people standing up saying, "I love property. I love capitalism. I love America. If you care about your country, you really need to read Ludwig von Mises, like six things about, what did he say? Six lessons of the Austrian economic school, motherfuckers."
I hope it goes genuinely viral, and it's not just viral within our little rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, it really expands it by UFC. I mean, UFC is the biggest thing, one of the biggest cultural things in the world, I think, at this point. It really is. It's massive. So people are
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
it. So
fantastic.
yeah, I thought that was great. That was wonderful. And it's funny that you sent it to me and then I hear from my brother-in-law too, who would describe himself for years as a libertarian, but the economic part of it hadn't really, it's like small government, kind of limited government thinking, more freedom is good, but very unrefined thoughts. But even that he had never even heard of Mises, and he hears about it from this gentleman. So I love that. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
fantastic.
So I want to share this with you. Gold has obviously been on fire lately, and this was shared on Twitter by Zero Hedge, and it's this little chart that basically shows a massive divergence in the 10-year Treasury and the gold price, and that the chart only goes back to 2007, but we can follow it through the financial crisis and everything, and they're pretty much following each other pretty closely. And then all of a sudden they broke. Like there's something different that's happening going on. And I mean, I have no idea what to make of it, but what do you think?
Well, I'm not a technical analyst. I don't believe really in technical analysis where you try to read the tea leaves, but with heads and shoulders and triple tops and all these things that market technicians and chartists follow. But one thing that this chart is telling me is gold is in a bull market and treasuries are in a bear market. And I think both of them are going to continue because, as we've talked in the past, the previous high, all-time high on gold was in 1980 when it hit $850 an ounce. But depending on how much credibility you give to the official inflation numbers, for gold to reach its previous high, which of 850 in today's dollars, it's going to have to go to 3,500. So right now it's 2,400. Gold has a lot further to go because the crisis we're confronting now is much bigger than the one we had, much bigger than the one we had 44 long years ago. And as far as the treasury is concerned, which you see in blue, the US dollar is it's headed towards its intrinsic value. So that is an interesting chart. Dump your bonds, buy gold is the answer.
And I'll make one other commercial plug. I don't usually do it, but if you want to invest in what you call, Doug, the last gold bull market, you can subscribe to our paid service at Crisis Investing, and here's some specific picks that Doug has.
Oh, yes. And in the next few days, I think we're going to have a new pick, which I think is going to be really hot. I hate to talk about hot penny stocks because everybody knows, I hope they all know what I think about junior mining companies and mining as a business. It's a crappy business. But I've got a new one that I'm really enthusiastic about. And I have a big position in. Well, not big, but pretty big.
Pretty big.
And so we'll announce that to file members, I think, in the next couple of days.
Awesome. Okay, looking forward to that. So we've entered the next stage of the Trump lawfare process, where he's they're doing juror selection on some, the Stormy Daniels case, I guess it is. Did you have any thoughts on that situation and the lawfare situation in general?
Yeah, it's absolutely criminal. My mind is not wired in a legal way with precedents of judges of questionable competence giving their opinions and then the other judges off. But what they're doing to Trump wouldn't even happen in a banana republic where the man is running to be president as one of the two major parties, and they're making it impossible. Like, for instance, in this Stormy Daniels case, for the next several months, he's required to be in the courtroom. How can he go out and campaign? I mean, this is a travesty. It beggars belief. In addition to the fact that the case itself is incredibly stupid. Whether he had an affair with Stormy Daniels or not, how's this relevant to anything that people are voting on? And the fact that he did or didn't give her money, there's nothing illegal about that. It's done all the time. So this is actually criminal. It's further proof that the Democratic Party stands for entrenched criminality and the destruction of the court system in the US. The fact that they're trying him in Manhattan, for God's sake, where 85% of the voters voted Democratic. How can he get a fair trial? Prosecutor who's, a leftist ideologue that judge is a leftist ideologue.
And campaigned on getting him.
Yeah, this is unbelievable that anybody's taking any of this crap seriously, and criminal.
It is.
It really is.
But there could be, it is criminal, right? So this isn't a civil charge. This is a criminal one. Whereas last one, where, you had the big fines levied against him for misstating on a mortgage application, like, that's criminal. And obviously I think it was a bond on that. He had to pay 175 million pending appeal, something like that.
That's right. It's just one damn thing after another, where these people are doing everything they possibly can. And what it's going to wind up with is something that resembles a civil war, because even the most oblivious voter is going to be aware of the fact that first they try to bankrupt him with this huge fund, which is fine, which is totally unjust and inappropriate. And now they're keeping them from campaigning on more criminal charges for months. And they've got several more court cases that they're going to throw at them. So
And they
that,
tried to kick him off the ballot in 2 states.
yeah, so that people that are anti the Democrat Party, and since it's totally corrupt and polluted, uh, I think any reasonable person has to be anti-Democrat at this point. I mean, the party of FDR, that Democrat Party, was bad enough, but this party, as I said, they're actual Jacobins. So they're asking for a civil war. They actually are, and I think they're going to get one. Not like the unpleasantness of 1861 to 65, which was actually a war of secession. I don't want to get into that distinction now, but Chris Webber, our friend Chris Webber, who writes an excellent newsletter, did a great article, very accurate, because Chris, in addition to being an excellent economist, is an excellent historian. And he explains, and he's quite accurate, that the Revolutionary War was actually a civil war, because a third of the people were for independence, a third of the people were for sticking with Britain, and a third of the people just didn't know or were on the wire. And what it worked out to, it wasn't the Revolutionary War, it wasn't all about battles like Saratoga and Yorktown and Concord, this type of thing. It took place between neighbors in small towns where you supported one or the other, and the hatred and inability to communicate was as bad as it is now, except they were shooting each other and trying each other and tar and feathering each other. It was a really, really dangerous and unpleasant time, the Revolutionary War in the US. And we're headed into something like that, except it's going to be worse, because the government today, which is roughly equivalent to the British Crown in 1776, is much more powerful than the Crown was back then. So hold on to your hat. And if Trump is not elected, I think the MAGA people will justifiably go wild. And if he is elected, the lefties are going to go wild. So there's no way out of this. And it's going to take place in an environment of financial chaos and economic collapse. This is really going to be a dog's breakfast come November.
If we make it till November, because what happens if he is convicted of these charges and they try and put him in jail?
The crowd's going to go wild, as they should. I mean, there's a certain limit to what can be done. And this is totally improper.
Yeah. I mean, if they actually try and put him in prison, put him in jail, like, I mean, I don't know. I can't even imagine
Yeah.
what people might do.
I don't know what the average guy is going to do, because Trump supporters aren't people in cities. In cities, you go out and, riot and demonstrate. I mean, there are people in the countryside and small towns. And so how are they? I don't know how this is going to work.
They're gonna try and put him in Rikers? I mean, I can't even imagine. Jesus.
Put him in a special block with his Secret Service agents, which of course have to accompany any ex-president.
Yeah, I was trying to imagine what their like little private talks are, because right now they get to stay in, they're on their protection detail all the time, but at least they're staying in beautiful places. If these guys got to, they're like, man, this is really going to suck if our gig's in Rikers for the next.
Maybe it'll at least be like with the Mafia Don, where you can cook pasta. And
yeah, I think so. I think it'd be different, but still, people, it'd be crazy. I mean, I can't imagine. I can't believe that they're willing to push it like this.
It's no laughing matter, and they've just gone too far. And I just don't know what the average traditional American's going to do. So
when you talk about Chris Webber's, I got to go read that article, but That sounds much more like a plausible scenario than what I always imagine a civil war, relating to the War of Secession, because there were battle lines and there were states with territories that kind of took one side or the other. But instead, in the Revolution, that Civil War, like you said, it was neighbor against neighbor all over the place. Where and that resonates much, much more because there are geographical lines, obviously, where there's more Trump supporters and less, but there's a lot of integration. There's going to be a lot of disputes at local levels.
Anyway, Chris is a great historian, and I enjoy reading his letter. He's on the right side of the markets. He's a market historian, among other things. But I don't know if people want to read the article. I'm going to send Chris an email and see if we can send his article out to people that want to read it, because I promise you, it's worthwhile reading.
Okay, and if
It's
we're able to get
facts,
them,
facts that I think not one American out of 100 is aware of, and they are fascinating and scary.
well, if we get permission to use it, I'll send it out to everyone on the crisis investing that's subscribed on the email list. So that's a third reason to go to the list. That's the most promotional we've been in 3 years, Doug, is right now,
I know
today.
I'm ashamed of myself,
I know, me
Matt.
too. I know. Okay. All right. So, other things I saw you wanted to discuss. Well, we have the Iran situation. We can't not discuss that at all. What's your take on what happened there?
Well, it's up to the Israelis at this point. If I was the Israeli government, I'd leave well enough alone. I mean, we blew up their embassy, which is an attack on Iran.
You mean Israel? Israel blew up their embassy.
Yes, Israel blew up the Iranian embassy. Totally improper, quite frankly. I mean, it breaks international law. And the Iranians, tit for tat, strike back with missiles. Okay, I'll leave it alone. But if the Israelis strike back again, then the Iranians are going to have to up the ante once more. So how crazy are these people in the Middle East? Well, pretty crazy. But if I was the Israelis, leave it alone. I mean, enough.
Yeah. They really should, but like the one thing it's done is it's taken all of the attention off of what the situation with Hamas. You don't even the Gaza thing just totally fades into the background. All their war crimes related to that, get lost in it, and they rally. I saw a lot of people, a lot of war hawks on Twitter. People that are normally right about stuff. As soon as Iran did this, they're like, we should go get them. Like not just the Congress people, like not Lindsey Graham, who was like, best day of his life, hoping like now's our chance, but lots of people.
Yeah. It's just amazing. These people don't seem to understand. They're really playing with fire. I mean, New York and other cities could wind up as smoking ruins. I mean, it could go to that. So these people have something wrong with them, quite frankly, that they want to see this thing escalate. And as far as who, first of all we really know is what we read in the papers and what we're told by the media. And frankly, it's all lies. I mean, it bears saying again that the first casualty in war is always the truth. So it's said that the Iranians launched 300 and some cruise missiles, drones, and ballistic missiles on Israel. And they say, well, we shot down 99% of them. Well, maybe, and maybe not. But the fact of the matter is that these anti-missile missiles, and SOP, I understand, is to launch 2 missiles for every missile coming at you. And it's the ballistic missiles mainly that they do this for. These are very expensive missiles. And my understanding is that the Iranians were basically using kind of old junk.
Well, the
Just
drones are like, 20 grand each. That they sent, and they fly slow, and they gave them hours of notice. They're coming now. They told them about them. It's not like they did it discreetly.
Yeah, I mean, the estimates that I've seen are that it costs the Iranians 30 or 40 or $50 million to launch this attack. But for the Israelis and the Americans to counter it, it cost them $1 billion or $1.5 billion. So that's a win for Iran, actually.
It is. And Iran didn't, I think they demonstrated their capabilities without killing any civilians or anything in the process. So I think they were judicious about what they did. I mean, they could have used some of their hypersonic missiles that instead of in hours, these slow flying drones, flying over Jordan and everything, can be there in 400 seconds,
Yeah, exactly. And they didn't go for population centers to kill a lot of Israelis. So I hope the Israelis just leave well enough
Let it
alone.
go.
The tit for tat. Okay, I'll leave it alone.
Yeah. I mean, from what I understand, they couldn't. Some people say that Israel bombed that embassy, to provoke Iran. From what I've read about it, is that they just thought it was just too compelling of a target because they had these 7 generals all together there, and it was just just an incredible opportunity for them to take out a lot of critical people, they thought, in one shot. So that's why they did it rather than try to provoke. But now if they do something, they clearly are provoking.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, well,
What a
we'll
mess.
just have to see what happens and hope that the reporting that we get is not totally lies.
Twitter is good for some stuff. You do see different takes on it, and you never know if the videos are real you see, or, I mean, a lot of times they're not real, but I think it is much better than simply having to rely on the Wall Street Journal or, CNN for what's happening in the world.
Yeah, that's true. You get some boots on the ground from people that aren't employees of organizations. And there is one thing I'll mention that I understand. I don't know what the terms were, but Musk apparently financed part of his purchase of Twitter by pledging Tesla stock. And Tesla is down about a third in the last year. And it could drop a lot further because as the bloom comes off the electronic vehicle rows. Now, I don't know how much he borrowed, and I don't know what the terms are. But if Tesla falls much more, his loan against Twitter could be called, and that could compromise what he's doing with Twitter, which would not be good.
Mm. You know, Separate issue, but I'll say it for another time. Yeah, no, that wouldn't be good. I mean, I don't think it's the bastion of free speech that it's made out to be, but it's still the best thing we've got, I think, for information being spread.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
See what
so
happens.
the other thing I think the last thing you had on your list that I saw was a Wired magazine article on climate change.
Yeah, this tremendous world hysteria about global warming, climate change, it's really out of control, where everybody believes that it's the case. And it's total bullshit. It's a total nothing burger. I mean, it's this demonization of carbon. I mean, the most life-friendly of all elements. I mean, it's absolutely insane the way the bad guys have twisted everything so that carbon is the enemy element. It's more dangerous than plutonium. It's more dangerous than sulfuric acid. I mean, it's crazy. It's actually carbon is only marginally above the level that if it went much lower, all plant life on Earth would die. And in the past, it's been much higher. By much, I mean 7 or 8 times higher minimum in relatively recent geological times. So this is all craziness. It's all stupidity and lies. So the thing in Wired magazine just shows how these people just can't leave it alone. They had an article to scare the wine cognoscenti that if we have serious global warming, your favorite wine may be compromised. It won't be as tasty because the grapes won't grow. So, they just can't let it up, creating more hysteria in any parts of the population that might not have already been touched by the fear of global warming.
I mean, I guess the whole thing, the whole argument of life will end in a decade if we don't act now, like that argument isn't working as well. So they're trying to say your wine will not taste as good. Feels like
That's
grasping at straws.
that's that's right. That's hitting the elite where they live. Your wine won't be as tasty.
Yeah, you think though that they would already be the people that are on board with it for the most part.
Yeah, they are, but you got to keep hammering the message.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like Goebbels said. It's not just a big lie, but it's a lie you got to tell them again and again and again until it's part of the cosmic firmament.
Mm. Yeah. Oh, one other thing I thought was worth talking about. Obviously during the last election, we had BLM actively, disrupting things. And now it seems though it's now Palestine supporters or Hamasites or whatever you want to call them that, blocked the entrance to O'Hare Airport as well as both directions on the Golden Gate Bridge yesterday.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that.
Yeah, and it just has given me, 2020 vibes. That's what it feels like, is that like that the it won't be Antifa, maybe, and Black Lives Matter this year, Black Lives Matter being fully discredited, but it seems that they might be under the banner of supporting Palestine this time.
Well, one more reason to import lots more Muslimin to change the culture and to fight the Jews. I mean, these people are all crazy.
They're crazy. They're crazy. Okay. Well, I know you got an appointment, Doug, so we'll wrap it up for today and we'll be back on Friday with more.
Thanks, Matt. Look forward to it.
Thank you.